What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another training voiceover. I got some really good feedback on the last voiceover that I did, so I wanted to do another one of those. This was my push B workout that I did yesterday, which would have been August 5th, 2023, and this workout was done at exactly 13 weeks out from the first show that I have my eyes set on this competitive season. Just going to go ahead and get right into the video today. Again, kind of similar to the last one, I don't really have a particular topic at hand. I just kind of want to talk about the training. So we're starting off with cable crunches today. Very similar to the cable crunches that you guys would have seen in the pull day voiceover. If you guys haven't seen that video, then I recommend that you go watch that, because in that video I kind of go on a little rant about my ab training and how frequently I've been training my abs and why I'm doing that, and the exercises that I'm using and things along those lines. But the rope cable crunch was the exercise that was up today, and I'm starting off this session with some ab work. I'm really only using 2 ab exercises right now at both gyms, so I would assume that by now you guys are familiar with the fact that I train at 2 gyms, but if you don't, then I do. At both gyms, I have numbers for a decline crunch and for a rope cable crunch. I really feel like those are the 2 exercises that I connect the best with my abs, and so those are the only 2 exercises that I really feel the need to do, is a rope cable crunch and then a decline crunch. Right now I'm doing those body weight on a fairly steep decline with the goal of progressively overloading those through adding external weight. But right now, as my body weight decreases, it's difficult for me to do that, so I'm just focused on challenging my abs through decline crunches at a fairly steep decline. There may be some of you guys who are wondering why I don't do any work for my lower abs directly, and I actually do. It's just not something that I track. This is funny. You can kind of see how far I've zoomed in here. If you guys go back a little bit and you see the gentleman here that's doing the rope pushdowns, if you really squint right where that cable stack is, you can see that my gym has an assisted dip and pull-up station over there. And what I will do on every session that I do, whether I'm doing the decline crunch or whether I am doing a rope crunch, is I will superset that with hanging leg raises. And I do not track the hanging leg raises and aim to progressively overload those, because hanging leg raises are an exercise that I do before every single workout. Whether I'm training push, pull, or legs, I will always do hanging leg raises as part of my pre-workout warm-up routine. This was another thing that I went into a little rant on in the pull day video, so again, that's another reason to go check that one out. But the long and short of it is that I find that doing leg raises really helps me stretch and contract my hip flexors and my lower abdominal muscles, which kind of helps me mentally and physically take control of my pelvis better, which I find allows me to brace better in all of my lifts. You know, whether we're doing a squat, a bicep curl, or a chest press, we need to brace our midsection in order to be able to properly distribute force and output that force throughout the weight. So being able to brace is obviously, you know, when we think about bracing, we think about it being very important for your major compound movements, but bracing affects all exercises, even exercises as simple as a bicep curl. So just kind of keep that in mind. Obviously, it's at a much smaller scale, but the same concept applies. So I will always do hanging leg raises, and because I do them so frequently, I don't really track the weight and reps on those. I just do body weight leg raises, and my main goal with them isn't necessarily to progressively overload them. It's more or less to just gain control of my midsection. When I'm doing my ab work, I'm focusing on progressively overloading the actual crunch exercise itself, but I don't really care about the leg raises. It's just something that I do in order to, again, help me establish control with my midsection. From here, typically on my push sessions, after I do my ab work right at the beginning, it's up in the air where I go from there. If the major pressing movement is available at that time, I will take it. If not, I will get into some direct shoulder work. I'm sure that you guys have seen a bunch of push day videos on my channel before, and on some of them I start off with shoulder work before I get into the presses. Real quick, I don't want to get sidetracked, but this is just popping up. You guys can see in between between my warm-up sets, I'm kind of doing some bent over YTIs, and I'm just trying to get blood into my mid-traps and kind of warm up my mid-traps, because those mid-traps are going to be responsible for setting your shoulders and holding your shoulders in a stable place while you're pressing. And so I have really weak mid to low traps, which is why I think that I've been experiencing some shoulder issues and rotator cuff issues. So I'm trying to address that in between my warm-up sets. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, I'm sure that you guys have probably seen some push day videos where I've started off doing shoulder work, and that is because the pressing exercise is taken at that moment. My goal is to press as early in the workout as I can, because that is hypothetically when I will be the strongest. However, if the press is taken at the beginning of the workout, I'm not going to sit there and wait for it, because I have found that if I get into some lateral and rear delt work before I press, that does not negatively impact my ability to press and progress my lifts. Again, another thing, I don't want to get off on side tangent here, but this particular gym, the Smith machine, is located right next to this assisted dip station. In between, I will do these assisted dips, and sometimes I'll do these in my pre-workout warm-up routine too. And the goal of that is to just kind of take control of my serratus and my scapula. So again, I know I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but on this particular day, the Smith machine was open, and both of my major compound exercises on this day are done on the Smith machine. So when I get in the Smith machine, I'm going to be in that thing for a long time. So I try to get it as early as I can. This particular session was done at like 8 a.m. on a Saturday, and I'm sure that you guys can tell from behind me it's pretty much dead in here. At this point, with my body weight and where I am in the contest prep and everything, guys, I've lost 55 pounds in body weight since the beginning of the year. So I'm really no longer in a position where I can do 2 sets of a press anymore. For those of you guys who have kind of been fairly experienced in this game or lifting in general, you'll probably be able to attest to the fact that as your body weight gets lighter and lighter, your pressing exercises are the first ones that tend to be affected by that. And I am living that right now. My presses, I'm literally just fighting to maintain my presses every week at this point. So today was 225, 2 plates for a triple. I could easily talk about the rep range thing, but the long and short of this is that I understand that 3 rep sets are not conducive to hypertrophy. At one point, this was a 5 rep set, and it dropped to 4, and I was fighting like hell to keep it at 4. And then just recently, it's dropped to 3, and I'm just fighting like hell to drop it at 3. And as soon as it gets to the point where it drops from 3 to 2, I will more than likely decrease the load so that I'm working in a safer rep range. But honestly, I'm still at a point in prep where I feel like I can safely do a 3 rep set each week, and I don't feel like I'm really at much of an injury risk for that, especially with an exercise like this where I'm locked in and I feel fairly safe. I don't want that to come back and bite me in the ass, but I'll knock on wood. Maybe you guys heard that, maybe you didn't, but I literally just knocked on wood as I said that. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. But at this point, still, I feel strong enough to be able to do that. The JM press is the second exercise that I do here. Again, the tricep focused exercise. I'm still at the point where I can only do 1 set on this exercise, and I've been holding 210 for 6 reps for the past like 3 to 4 rotations, so I'm happy with that. Realistically, I'm at the point where progressing my lifts, progressing my presses, I'll say, is becoming just really unrealistic. Again, I've lost 55 pounds this year, and I've got more weight that I need to lose, so if I'm already experiencing issues with my presses at this body weight, it's safe to assume that it's just going to continue to rear its head as the body weight gets lighter and lighter. So just kind of trying to maintain things, and as long as I'm maintaining things, then I'm very, very happy with that. Another exercise that I'm down to only 1 working set on is this particular lateral raise. This is made by Cybex. This has a very similar resistance profile to a lot of hammer strength machines. It's very, very, very heavy at the fully shortened position. Because I'm only using 1 working set on this particular exercise, I really feel the need to get absolutely everything that I can out of it. And because this particular exercise overloads so heavily in the shortened position, you'll notice that I use a 3 count pause pause at peak contraction. So I'm really pausing and spending time where the tension in the muscle is the heaviest. And then not only will I do that, when I can no longer hit full range of motion, you'll see me do partial reps until I can no longer literally move my arm from my side. So I'm literally getting absolutely every single thing that I can out of this exercise. As of late, I have been sitting in this machine backwards. This machine is actually designed for you to sit facing the other way. But I was dealing with some shoulder issues a couple of weeks ago, and for whatever reason, I just kind of decided to sit in this the other way. I'm pretty sure that I had seen somebody sit in it the other way on social media. Otherwise, it would have never even entered my mind to do it that way. But I decided to sit on it this way, where I kind of shifted my hips slightly back a little bit. And not only do I feel like that aligns the fibers of the medial delt a little bit more with the resistance profile of the exercise, but it feels a lot better on my shoulder joint, and that's really all the feedback that I need to know that this is probably a safe and effective way for me to set up on this exercise. So I went a really long time doing it the other way. If you're watching this video right now and you have this exercise in your gym and you're doing it the other way, please don't change just because of me. I had a very good reason to kind of experiment and switch things around, and it just so happened to feel really good. So I just kind of want to make sure that we're not blindly playing follow the leader here, and we're understanding that this was something that I did for a personal reason for that was going on with my body. So from there, you guys won't be able to tell from this angle, but the reverse pec deck is actually directly in front of that lateral raise that I did. So you can actually see on the right hand side, that's my logbook that is sitting on the seat of the Cybex lateral. So this is the reverse pec deck, and what's interesting about doing this today is the cable fly. Typically, the chest accessory that I do on this exercise on this workout is a cable fly. But when I walked into the gym on this particular day, the cable fly station was broken. It had a big sign on it that said the cable was broken. So I knew right off the rip that was not going to be able to be used today. So I was going to have to find a different alternative for a chest fly. And I've been going to this gym for a very long time. They've had this particular piece of equipment the entire time that I've been going there. And I have had previous training blocks where this pec deck has been my chest accessory of choice. And so it was very fitting for me to use this Magnum pec deck as the same or as the alternative to the chest fly that I was using. And the way that this kind of worked out is I am doing 2 working sets on the reverse pec deck, and I am doing 2 working sets on the pec deck fly, and I'm using the same machine for both of those, so I kind of staggered those. So I left that in there. You guys will see that I finished up my first working set of the reverse pec deck, and then I got into the first working set of the pec deck fly, and then you'll see as soon as I finish the pec deck fly, I'll do the second set of reverse pec deck and then go into the second set of the pec deck fly. Now I did do warm-ups, like, I didn't just finish the reverse pec deck and then go straight into my warm-up weight of the Magnum pec deck. Coincidentally, because this was the first time that I had done this exercise in a while, the weights that I used for the chest flies were the same weights that I used for the reverse pec deck flies. So I did 137 for the first set of reverse pec deck, and I did 137 for the first set of pec deck fly, and then second set you'll see I do 90 pounds here on the reverse pec deck, and then I do 90 pounds again on the chest fly. So in terms of time efficiency, this was like an absolute thing of beauty today. The same weights for the same number of sets on the same machine, and just kind of staggering those back and forth was like a really good way to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, literally. So I kind of got lucky that happened today. I actually went into the gym today on the day of filming. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that this workout happened yesterday. I went into the gym today to hit pull, and that cable station is still broken, so it looks like for the foreseeable future, this will be the way that I'll be running things, which stuff like this really excites me, man. Like, I love being in the gym for sure, but I also like finding ways to make my time in the gym more efficient and trying to make my workouts as short as possible. Especially right now with prep and everything, I'm so busy busy with work. I feel like I'm producing so much content right now because the prep is presenting lots of opportunities for me to get things on film, and I obviously want to take advantage of that to help grow my business. So I feel from a business like perspective right now, my life is very, very busy. So if I can find simple things like this to do within my training in order to kind of speed things up, then that's a win for me. Two other things that I want to talk about with this like superset thing really quick before the clip ends. The first is I kind of want to finish the topic that I was talking about earlier, the warm-ups. I kind of got off track there. I did like 3 warm-up sets for the reverse pec deck and then 3 warm-up sets for the pec deck, and then I got into my working sets. So I went warm-up sets, went reverse pec deck, reverse pec deck, reverse pec deck, and then pec deck, pec deck, pec deck. And then I got into the working sets, which were reverse pec deck, reverse pec deck, pec deck. You guys who drink should take a shot for every time I said pec deck there. You guys would be pretty fucked up by now. But, I just want to make it clear that I did warm-ups for both exercises, but when it got into the working sets, I just staggered those and I went straight from one working set right into the next. And then the second thing that I want to talk about is I want to, I sped this up in the video, so it may not do it justice, but I did take about a minute to 90 seconds in between finishing the reverse pec deck before going into the pec deck, and then vice versa. I was not going straight from one into the next. I wanted to take time to let all of my oxygen debt go away and just, be at 100% recovered when I go into the next exercise so that I'm able to get the max amount of reps. I just want to make that clear because, stereotypically with a superset, you go back and forth with no rest. And even though I did these in kind of like a superset fashion where I staggered the working sets and I went from one exercise back and forth between another one, I was taking rest periods there because going into the next exercise with an oxygen debt would undoubtedly reduce the performance and the number of reps that I can get. I feel like that's kind of widely accepted by now, is that longer rest times are better. And so I just want to make it clear that that is the case. When I superset something, and you obviously can't see this, but I'm saying superset with air quotes with my fingers, it's not the stereotypical meaning of a superset. I definitely have some sort of rest in between. So I just wanted to make that really clear so that there's no misconceptions between any of those two things. But if you do have to superset exercises back and forth like that for a time reasons, I don't think that that's an issue, but I think that we could all unanimously agree that you would get more reps and potentially be able to use a slightly heavier load if you had a little bit more rest time in between attempts. So that's always the goal, is to try and meet that middle ground with the rest times where you're resting long enough to where you're able to put in maximum effort into the following set, but you're not resting so long that you're wasting time and you're spending 2 hours in the gym for a workout that could be done in 90 minutes. So that's something, going back to what I said earlier with how busy I always am, or am lately, and trying to be efficient within the gym. That's something that I am like really looking myself in the mirror lately and like asking myself a lot, like, are you spending 2 hours in the gym for a 90-minute workout, or, are you spending 2 hours in the gym for a 2-hour workout? Like, if there's ways that we can cut this time down, we need to get that done. So, and I feel like that's an important thing that most of us should always be challenging ourselves to do within reason. Obviously, we don't want to finish the workout as quick as we can at the sake of performance, but we want to keep it as quick as we can while still maintaining maximum performance. So from here, we get into the unilateral cuffed work. I do a single arm cuffed tricep extension, which is what you're seeing, and then a single arm cuffed lateral, which will follow this. I actually did not film my first set of this exercise when I came over to the cable station. One of my good buddies who goes to this gym, who I had not seen in a while, was there, and we were just talking, and then I realized, shit, I didn't film my first set, so sorry about that. I didn't film my first set. What you guys are watching is the left and right hand side of both sets, but trust me, I did do that first set, but the clips that you're watching are just from the second one. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this exercise before on other push day videos, but this is about as simple as it gets. I like the unilateral setup because it allows me to align things perfectly with the cable with zero elbow, shoulder, wrist strain at all. I like to use my wrist cuff and I'll wrap it around my hand, and it just kind of gives me something nice and firm to grab onto and squeeze. That's what she said while I'm doing this exercise, but it's my preferred way to do this. For those of you guys who are familiar with like the crossbody tricep extension, this is basically that same thing but done with a unilateral setup instead of a bilateral setup. And then this is I guess the last exercise of the day. This is a single arm cuffed lateral. You'll notice that I have the cable set up at hip height because this will cause tension to be the highest in the lengthened position of the delt. The first exercise that I did in the session, the Cybex lateral raise, as I've already mentioned, overloads heavily in the shortened position. So the second exercise that I do here, I want to be something that contrasts that from a resistance profile perspective. And I want to place the shortened exercise at the beginning of the workout because my ability to fully shorten the muscle will diminish as the workout goes on. So what's nice about this particular setup is that the tension in the muscle drops off as you get closer to the contraction, because at this point, even though I only did one set, that one set was pretty fatiguing, and my delts do have a certain degree of fatigue in them that will prevent them from reaching the fully shortened position. So to have an exercise like this that actually drops off in the shortened position so that I can get there easier works to my advantage. And then it overloads in the lengthened, which is a good thing because there's still plenty of oomph left in the lengthened. By this point, we've kind of exhausted the shortened position of the muscle, but there's still a lot of juice left in the mid-range and the lengthened range. So we're just kind of using this to tack that off. So this is kind of my preferred way to finish off the delts, either this or kind of like a behind the back type of lateral raise. So as usual, you can see here, this is the total session volume, obviously pretty low. I mean, I always train low volume, but this is pretty low even for me. I'm just getting to the point right now where with my body weight, being able to progress my push days is becoming a real bitch. The good news is no regressions though. I did have those two sets that didn't really mean anything to me on this particular day because I had never done that exercise before in that way, but obviously if I'm going to continue to do that pec deck as I go forward, those will be the numbers that I aim to beat. And then everything else today was either progressed or held, which is a win as far as I'm concerned at this body weight and at this point in prep. So this is going to take us to the end of the session. I really hope that you guys are enjoying these. As always, take care of yourselves.